Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tern Investor Webinar. If you can just bear with us a few seconds while everybody joins, that would be much appreciated. We've got quite a lot of attendees tonight, and it will take us 30 seconds or so for everybody to join. Well, good evening. I can still see people joining, so if you can bear with us just a few moments longer, we'll get started very shortly. Okay, well, the list of attendees seems to have slowed down now, so hopefully most people have joined us, and those that are late can join during the proceedings. I'd like to welcome you all to the Tern Investor Webinar this evening. My name's Tim Metcalf. I run IFC Advisory, which is Tern's financial PR and investor relations advisor. With me this evening, I've got Al Sisto, Tern's CEO, Sarah Payne, Tern's CFO, Bruce Leith, who's founder, investment director, and member of the board of Tern. We've got Joe Halliday from Talking Medicines, Darren Antill from Device Authority, and Alistair Williamson from Wyld Networks. Al is going to start off with a brief introduction, followed by presentations from Joe, Darren, and Alistair on their respective businesses, and then there's time for a Q&A session at the end. I'd like to thank everybody who's sent in questions and observations ahead of this session. Very, very helpful, and it helps us frame what we're going to say this evening. Given the number of people who are attending, unfortunately, it's not going to be possible, as usual, for those who attended these events in the past, to go to you individually, unmute you, and ask you to put the questions. But we do really encourage further questions. So if you have got anything, please use the Q&A button, bottom of your screen, type it in, and I will do my best to go through those questions at the end and put them to the relevant people here. If there is anything at the end of the presentation that you don't feel has been answered and you'd like answered, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I will do my best to get answers for you. Okay, so without further ado, I'll hand over to Al to kick off proceedings. Al.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you all for attending today's Capital Markets Day. This webinar is a follow-on to our interim results released last Friday. Our purpose today is to showcase the progress that has been made by Talking Medicines, Device Authority, and Wyld Networks. This will be followed by a general Q&A session as Tim outlined. But before we start, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the team at FVR for completing a Series B round during the first half of 2022. This is a significant achievement as it signals funding support for growth and a change in the direction of travel for the company as they're expanding their relationships in the marketplace. It's also a significant milestone for Tern and our shareholders, as the work that we have done and put into helping create this business has been recognized by one of the leading, if not the leading, life science investor, EQT. So well done, Richard and the team at FVR. And now I'd like to introduce Joe Halliday from Talking Medicines. Talking Medicines is changing the way Big Pharma likes and thinks about their patients, and is making has made important funding and market progress during the first half of 2022. In light of that, Joe, would you please share your screen and provide our shareholders with an update? Joe?
Thank you, Al. I should just bring my slides up, which hopefully you can see now. So Joe Halliday, CEO of Talking Medicines, and I'm delighted to be here this afternoon to be part of this meeting hosted by Tern. We at Talking Medicines are turning up the volume on the patient voice. So by listening to what people say about their medicines in the real world, so that's not clinical environments or trials, we can spotlight and track experience from patients of lived experience. The feedback we gather is firsthand from ordinary people at home, amongst peers, and unprompted by researchers. So it's given in their own plain words, not those interpreted by medics, a really important point. So the feedback that we have is pure gold. We make sense of it, we decode it so it can be understood. So for the next 10 minutes or so as an update, I'm going to talk through how capturing the voice of the patient meets a critical pain point for our clients and how that translates into our opportunity for product-led growth and commercialization through growing MRR. I'm going to talk about how we manage and make our data insights addictive so that clients keep coming back for more. So Talking Medicines, we give patients a voice. We have a clear mission to be the world's leading provider of actionable patient intelligence. We do that through data mining using data science. That's artificial intelligence, machine learning, and natural language processing. Put simply, the pharmaceutical industry has traditionally lacked patient insights once drugs are launched on the market. In a regulated and complex industry, it's difficult to isolate and extract the patient voice. However, 50% of medicines globally are not taken as directed. So there is a clear mismatch in understanding and support between those who make medicines versus those who consume them. And this is our part of the jigsaw. We're here to uniquely provide the missing piece through actionable patient insights at scale. We're setting the gold standard for this Piper data, working to the highest quality standards and taking care to ensure compliance and trust are embedded for all of our key stakeholders through the way we collect, process, and package our data. So it's a big market for Talking Medicines. Pharmaceutical companies spend a mega £30 billion each year on marketing to target and support patients on their medicines, primarily in the United States. To put this in context, brands like Walt Disney spend about $3 million on marketing. So this marketing and advertising activity is outsourced by pharma companies to medical advertising agencies who pitch for agency of note status by medicine brand. The agencies then manage significant budgets on behalf of the pharma drug marketing teams to manage the business to consumer communication on behalf of them. Talking Medicines has developed proprietary know-how on extracting the patient voice, and it's commercialized through our cloud-based data as a service solution called Patient Metrics. That's accessed by clients through a web-based platform and subscribed for on a medicine brand basis, so they buy it by medicine. It's unique because of its ability through AI to isolate the patient voice away from other voices like healthcare professionals, media, spammers, and importantly, bots. We're able to target agencies of note with Patient Metrics to deliver near real-time patient experience from listening, and we're continuously teaching our AI to be able to simulate and predict the next best action to impact outcomes. So looking at why our data is so relevant. In an uncertain world, post-pandemic, consumers have become even more aware of their precarious health. The use of digital platforms has grown exponentially. Face-to-face doctor visits are still low, and real-world insight has never been more critical. COVID taught us that the sector can move faster, and it needs the finger on the pulse, and that's what we deliver. We pan for gold to find the nuggets of data that can change outcomes for medical advertising agencies. Through our AI, we're able to source unstructured signals from patients at scale. This is from social media, health networks, blogs, message boards. But we go beyond just sourcing from health platforms because everyday people talk about their medicines on many lifestyle sites. Could be cruising, could be gardening. We source patient signals from wherever people on medicines look for help and talk about their experiences. So we're led by their behaviours. The data is sourced legally and ethically as signals. It's de-identified before we use our AI to classify to the patient voice. From this unique elimination of noise, we're able to deliver robust and accurate insights within the context for that medicine or therapy. And that makes our data very actionable for the agency strategists and creative teams. So why will agencies buy the Patient Metrics service? They need a 360 on the lived experience. As a data tech company dedicated to life sciences, we use our science to structure those billions of unstructured signals. That gives agencies a view on sentiment, but we go much, much further through delivering context to medicines. This speciality differentiates us from other general social listening. Agencies want to track a market basket of drugs to identify opportunities and to understand the competitive space at a drug or a therapy level. So let me give an example. When the FDA in the US gave a black box warning, that's a US government safety alert, it would seem a big deal for patients. It was given for an autoimmune medicine in the JAK inhibitor category that left the brand marketeers wondering if that impacted on their drug or its competition. Patient metrics data showed that patients were far more concerned with their daily routines and lifestyle than worrying about an FDA warning. So there was very low voice seen for discussion of clots or warnings, and we could confirm that that black box warning didn't have an immediate impact on patient experience through our confidence score. That insight is significant to the messaging and patient support going out on that branded medicine. So where are we now? Earlier in 2022, as Al mentioned, we raised capital led by a Boston-based life science investor with follow-on funding from current investors, including Tern. The funding was planned to expand the US-based sales operation, and that's been achieved. We've really fired up our US operation as planned. Talking Medicines has established Talking Medicines Inc. as a subsidiary earlier in the year. So our headquarters is here in Glasgow, where I am today. But we also now have a front office in New Jersey to be close to both pharma, who are located in the Jersey area out, and also our target ad agencies, who are predominantly in Manhattan. So we've also grown our team. Significantly, we've recently hired a senior chief customer officer based in the US to spearhead MRR growth from the ad agency network. His experience of both pharma and working in top agencies to drive customer-centric revenue operations has been a big win for the team at Talking Medicines as we expand this operation. Many of our team were hired in the pandemic, so we have a really strong remote culture that successfully spans across the UK and US time zones. As a team, we invest significantly in building our employees and believe that that is key to our future success. So we have great momentum coming out this summer and into the brand planning season for agencies and pharma clients, and we're doing the business on the ground. So I'm just going to cover the why to buy and buy again. We have seen that our customers reach their eureka moment when they find gold nuggets in our data insights. Our data is fast, it's accurate, and it's insightful. Without us, extracting those insights is pretty manual. It would need to come from non-specific, non-sector specific social listening with results that are full of noise, meaning that clients need to use additional time-consuming steps to try to get closer to the nuggets. And many of those steps are manual. Or it means running cross-sectional focus groups, which can be heavily biased and small scale. So we believe we can improve efficiency by about 80% through using our AI-based tool. Our clean patient insights inspire a virtuous circle once clients sign up to the first subscription. The more a client uses patient metrics, the more they can see opportunities for their own revenue growth with clients. Our product features help clients spot opportunities and broken windows from a patient's perspective. So through the platform, clients are able to track sentiment, attribution for marketing, patient language, as well as patient confidence scores. These features open up new work streams that they may not have anticipated, which will in turn fuel the need for more data, bringing in more medicines to the platform. That accelerates our MRR through a strategy of land and expand. Within the top 100 healthcare agencies, there's a large number of networks, enabling a ripple effect through a group once the first agency in a network adapts patient metrics. That drives our MRR. So we're changing the behaviors of our clients through data science, and we want it to be win-win for all. In terms of our relationship with Tern, their role has been pivotal in our acceleration. That's both through capital, having been involved in the last 2 rounds. They've also played an important role of key institutional investor. Because of their stature and diligence around investments, the Scottish Government, acting through Scottish Enterprise, were able to match fund against the Tern Capital as an equity investor, in effect doubling the amount we could raise from these two parties. Having both Tern and the Scottish Government on our cap table as committed investors is credible and important to the future. On a day-to-day basis, our sister acts as our chair of the board and Sarah Payne is an observer. Both play an important governance role in business operations and stretching our agenda, for example, on ESG. CEO meetings amongst portfolio companies help on shared experiences and learning. Talking Medicines has been through a very significant stage this year in opening up the US operation and moving our sales channel to focus on agencies, both of which Tern have been able to add value and support too. So Tern play an important role in our story today, as well as planning for tomorrow. So as I conclude, as I said at the beginning, Talking Medicines really are turning up the volume on the patient voice. That patient voice needs to be heard. It's broad, it's diverse, and it needs data science to cut through the classification and structuring of the patient voice in a way that couldn't be done without AI. We're here to disrupt the status quo. We know we have a unique offering, patients deserve to be heard, and we can unlock their valuable insights. We found our market fit in selling to marketing advertising agencies in New York. We can enable them to win more business and retain business through enabling campaigns and strategies that resonate with patients in the real world. In doing so, we create win-win virtuous cycle. The future's bright. We're solving the problems of current clients, and that's a big market in itself. But we know there's many adjacencies in the broader healthcare sector, and we can create new sources and revenue as we grow. We're confident in our mission to be the world's leading source of actionable patient intelligence. And thank you very much for listening to the presentation, and back to Al.
Thank you, Jo. And that was really informative. And again, it's an exciting business solving a real critical issue that in fact, COVID has exacerbated. But with that, I'd like to introduce Darren Antle, the CEO of Device Authority, who will update us and our shareholders on the US and EU recognition of the cybersecurity issues and of course on DA's progress to help solve this problem and many other problems in the world of cybersecurity with the help of its partners and its customers as critical references to gain market traction. So with that, Darren.
Thank you, Al, and you can see my slides. Fantastic. Thank you for the invitation to present today. So many of you have probably heard from me before, but I thought I'd give you an update, an overview, I guess, of a number of things that are going on in the market, where we sit, and some of the significant progress that we've made. But just in terms of, I guess, the market that we operate in, there's a lot of independent research articles. I know a number of you follow it from industry analysts. There's a lot of buzzwords, I think, that are coming out that are converging around the space that we operate. So I thought I'd just touch on that. Zero trust and machine identities as two important, I guess, phrases, words, categories that are getting reported on, absolutely in our wheelhouse. And if you think about zero trust, that's really around never trust, always verify. That's really what zero trust is all about. And that starts with authentication and authorization, which is, again, in Device Authority's platform, Keyscape. It's really important. So zero trust is a big play for us. You see us change our tagline. The other category is machine identities, and I'll just touch on this in a minute. But for years, people have been effectively identifying with servers, applications, laptops, desktops. So machine identities, or how humans interact with them, has been very important. But now you've got this other challenge that you need to solve around the Internet of Things, devices, or things as people refer to. So people are trying to figure out, how do we deal with the machine identities of those things? So these markets are converging. And if you look at some of the analysts or large vendor reports, things like machine identities is now a very significant category, not only reported but tracked by people like CyberArk, Venafi, Keyfactor, DigiCert, as well as some of the leading analysts like Gartner and Forrester. The good news is that data breaches are on the up, and one thing I do like about Microsoft and companies like Verizon, they're well versed in reporting some of the significant breaches. So people are starting to listen and really starting to figure this out. And again, if you boil it down another level, another great piece of research talks to the market that we operate in now in terms of PKI, or PKI for IoT, so managing keys and identities, is 50%, is now responsible for 50% of new deployments, or nearly 50%, significant number. So there's lots going on. There's lots of new reports. I thought I'd just show you some of the pictures so you can look at it in your own time. But in terms of the market, the bit on the left has been done for the last 25 or 30 years. You know, there are many large, significant cybersecurity companies that have been acquired or have IPO'd on the left-hand side. The right is what Device Authority is all about, focusing on the right-hand side, you know, devices that are critical infrastructure, medical devices, right the way down to very small sensors and small things as the market effectively grows. But the challenges on the right are so significantly different to those on the left. In the old days, I guess, or in current times, you'd manage the left-hand side, the corporate identities, within the firewall. You can't do that with the Internet of Things or the devices that are outside of the firewall. So it's a whole different market. So think of it on the right. And the other challenge about the right is scale. There won't be enough people on the planet to manage all of those devices on the right-hand side. It is a magnitude of 50 to 100 times the challenge of managing human identities in the enterprise. So it's a significant opportunity, but it's also very complex. And the device identity is now becoming the new perimeter, as opposed to the firewall that I showed you on the previous page. And I think, you know, it's well versed, and we see it, that effectively dealing with identities is one of the challenges people are still trying to figure out. They're trying to work out when do they deal with it. And often we see projects blocked because they didn't deal with it early enough. And I'll touch on that a bit more. So in terms of a change is required. The old stuff on the left-hand side is legacy, low insurance, and is manual. The IT teams were working out how do you manage the identities. But security can't be an afterthought for IoT use cases. I think for the last 5 years or so, it's been an afterthought for too long. And now, you know, you're moving into critical use cases where safety, fatalities, you know, could be a consequence, where disruption to key services, where identity and data authenticity is critical. And I'll talk about why that's becoming critical with regards to some of the compliance drivers in a minute. But the way you solve that on the right, it's all about automation. You can't do it with people in the organization. All too often when we speak to customers, you know, they've manually provisioned certificates, or they're trying to solve the solution manually for the first 20 devices. It takes too long, it's expensive. It's when they start thinking about 100, 1,000 and 10,000, it becomes a significant challenge, and automation is the key. And the reason I major on that is we've invested heavily in automating a number of the functions within Keyscale. And effectively, you know, it is that lifecycle automation platform. So I talked about compliance drivers. You know, we do want the governments to stand up and mandate. Of course we do. We don't want it to a nice to do. We want it to be a must do, a must have. And you've heard about SBOMs, software bill of materials, and the Biden executive order originally kicked off by Trump. If you don't provide an SBOM for the devices in the military or in the critical infrastructure in any government or defense establishment, you won't be able to provide or sell your devices. So that's important. But then people think, okay, well, I've got time to do that. But then how can you prove the SBOM is from a valid, authenticated device? Well, that's where we come in. So the attestation is very important. And what's really good news, only last week, and I'm sure some of you saw this, but you know, the EU is finally following what the White House put forward in their executive order with the Cyber Resilience Act that got launched in the last 10 days or so as well. So new legislation coming through is further endorsement that this is serious. You know, the significant bodies are starting to do it, and they're starting to make it, you know, a necessity rather than nice to do. Here's a quick slide of some of the logos that people we're talking to. We've got POCs, we've got pilots, a number of customers, and some are moving to significant scale in production. I wanted to give you a flavor of this because, you know, they're lighthouse accounts, they're marquee logos, they're quality companies, and some of them absolutely take us to new markets that we couldn't do on our own. So we have an expanding set of customers in, you know, really 4 primary verticals. And the one I would pick out where public sector and defense is very much an emerging vertical. And, you know, we've had some great and recent successes that, you know, are really going to grow significantly in the coming years because there's significant dollars attached to those type of initiatives. And I think with the EU getting behind it. We'll see more of that, and hopefully progressive conversations that we're having with people like the National Cybersecurity Centre in the UK to further endorse that. So great logos. And I just wanted to talk through, I guess, the journey, you know, one customer. This is what it is like. It's a land and expand. It's hard to get people going, but once you get them going, the potential is huge. These marquee logos are trying to solve a number of problems, not just for one device, but for many device types, connecting to many cloud or on-premise applications. And it's not easy to do as it scales without your IT resources being totally consumed at resolving some of the provisioning, authentication and data security challenges, and then doing that through the life cycle, and it's on the outside of your firewall. It's very complicated, it's difficult to do, but we do that. But I wanted to just present a picture, and this is one of our customers we're dealing with. We started in one project, and now we have a number of different scenarios where they're looking to roll out to different device groups. It is going to take a couple of years, but the potential is huge. So it just gives you an idea of the type of growth from one customer's journey. So if you don't know what we do, and you've seen this picture, and I'm sure that many of you see it on our website, you see it on a number of our webinars, the key piece we do is on the right-hand side, where we are either in people's private clouds or in their on-premise deployments connected to their IoT applications. We help make sure the device and the data is secure interacting with those applications. We've built that functionality into Keyscaler with two other critical pieces. How do you make sure you can connect to the devices? And there's now a plethora of devices, an increasing number of devices. You need a number of methods. We have IP for critical infrastructure or critical safety devices, but we also have much simpler, smaller, easy to deploy methods as required in such as retail sensors, for example. So working with people like Avnet is a way of extending out to that market. So connecting to devices is also key, but also plumbing into the right-hand side, the enterprise infrastructure. You know, people have been investing in security for 25 years or so. They've made significant investments in the last 5 years in how they want to manage their key provisioning, or how they want to manage security around their applications, or people that interact with those applications like doctors, nurses, or critical workers. So how you plumb into those enterprise investments is very, very important. And again, we've built that plug and play functionality into Keyscaler, and specifically working with organizations like Microsoft to make those cloud applications, you know, very deployable and easy to use. Which then moves on to some of my, as we call internally, false multipliers. You know, ecosystem is really important, and in IoT, you can't get away from it. I mean, I'm an important part of the ecosystem. You know, Microsoft weekly recognizes the fact that we're important. What I like about Microsoft deployments is they normally started, or customers have, then they hit a roadblock because they fundamentally can't provision on board a number of devices, then think about how they manage the security of those devices at scale through the lifetime. So they pull us in. And in the recent weeks, you know, 3 new logos have been introduced, and now we're embarking on POCs of those type of opportunities, and they're huge in terms of their potential. Whereas someone like Avnet speaks with the chip manufacturers and the device manufacturers, so the left side of my chart I showed before, they help you get reach. Now, they've been slower than I would have liked bringing out their IoT Connect platform, but they made a choice to choose our identities piece of Keyscaler to get that into their platform, to take that out. And previously, Avnet, just so everyone knows, have invested in companies that they did not select to put into their solution, which is, you know, endorsed by Microsoft and many others. So, you know, Avnet I see as a great potential partner to take us to markets we otherwise wouldn't be able to touch necessarily. And then you've got the Virginia State, which is funded by the Department of Homeland Security. And I know we did a recent, you know, Q&A webinar. We went to an event in Europe as this blueprint that they've created, and Homeland Security is a tremendous endorsement globally. You know, the National Cybersecurity Centre talks about it in the UK. And, you know, funding of various programs, building out blueprints, taking you to other government defence markets, but also commercial opportunities that are coming off the back end of that, as they are effectively driving how do you deploy and secure identities in this very, you know, critical infrastructure world. And critical infrastructure, you know, has a wide range and definition that covers a number of industries. So we're really excited about that, and we're looking to, you know, leverage that in North America, but also replicate what we can in Europe with some of the other momentum through other bodies. And then I touched on before, cybersecurity companies, two of them, Venafi, they invested in us last year, but also Entrust. Both of those organizations are big PKI cybersecurity vendors dealing with trust for enterprises. The left side of my chart I showed before. They're all trying to figure out, and they are doubling down with organizations like us, because they know the solution we've got solves the things on the right-hand side of the picture I showed. So working with those type of partners gives me access to more customers and sales forces. And that really takes you back to the top with Microsoft. Again, it's not just working with these vendors, but it's making them a sales channel. And with Microsoft recently, just to close off on that, we just recently got IP co-sale status, which for us is fantastic news. It means salespeople get paid on Device Authority's Keyscaler. Quick slide on Microsoft. You're all going to go, oh my God, this is an eye chart. The key thing here is we invest heavily for customers who want to integrate Keyscaler into their Microsoft Azure deployments. There's a number of functionalities, and the ones that are really important or as important and new are at the bottom, where you're now looking at some of the managed services capabilities and the big umbrella that Microsoft is calling Defender for IoT, where they made all their security acquisitions, put them under a bucket. Keyscaler will have a plug-in to that. And the real key, the key value here to Microsoft and its customers, it provides the breadth and depth required. It's plug and playable. That's what customers and what Microsoft need. So you have to invest that in our platform so it's easy to get deployed. It protects people's investments they already made in either Azure or on-premise ones they want to move to the cloud. And it makes sure we absolutely are Azure, cloud ready. And before people ask, yes, we are also AWS and Google Cloud ready. But AWS is a platform that people deploy in sometimes, but we see Azure for the type of marquee logos I'm talking about being the choice for them and for the systems integrators deploying them. So we're getting back to business, I guess, post-COVID. I just want to give you a heads up. Events are important to us. Getting back to business is important to us, but physically turning up at events, we get a lot of good leads. We see a number of our key partners. Often we're with our partners. And you can see a big long list here. Last week we made 30 contact points in Singapore alone, where that was a UK sponsored mission in Singapore, and we were invited, and we were one of the top 3 vendors for the number of traffic and activity of meetings. So that was the first event we had last week. So I'm delighted that we know, and you can see there's a number of things coming up, and I'm looking forward to attending some of these machine identity and zero trust events, and also attending Aptiv, which is a big customer of ours, their own very cybersecurity summit. They take it that seriously. They invite their key cybersecurity vendors in to their own day summit, and we'll be part of that. So look out for us around the world, and you'll see some of the activity around that. But industry analysts, we go to events is one thing, we get a lot of coverage, but punching above our weight and making sure we're recognized is really important. We never diminish the value of independent analyst feedback. And if you haven't seen, there's a great report from ABI Research that absolutely categorized Device Authority as one of the leaders for device identity and lifecycle management, named against 3 others, of which one is a very significant strategic partner in Entrust. And on the right-hand side, and I know some of you track this on the Spark Matrix, and the new one is imminent, and look out for it. It looks great. I've seen it. But that will be out very soon, and that will be the 2022 version, which again further amplifies and endorses our leadership in terms of the impact we're making with customers, but also the technology and the way that we interact with other people. And there's significant names on there. It is a competitive market. We need investment to invest in that competitive market. But those players, it is a massive market. We just need to make sure we stay ahead of the curve and we win. And that's really where it comes down to, organizations like Tern, who, have been a very, very supportive investor, really since I joined the company in day dot. And I remember when I joined the company, one of the first things I said to Al, we need to absolutely focus. We were focusing on data security, but we need a device security solution as well. They go hand in hand. If you can't trust the device, you can't trust or secure the data. So that coupled thing was really what was behind acquiring DA Inc. and also expanding our North America. And you heard Joe talk about that earlier, which is the huge market. That's where the big customers are coming from. That's where Microsoft has its biggest theater. That's where the other cybersecurity vendors. So it's a global market, and we need to have a significant presence. So investing in that and getting that right is really important. Now, yes, I have experience of that, but so does organizations like Tern and ALP, our other investor, but specifically a number of the management team in Tern. And providing, I put here patient investment capital, because it's true, it does take time. You have to make pivots, you have to adjust to the market, you have to make decisions, but making decisions like backing and working with Microsoft isn't easy, and it doesn't come overnight. You have to work at it, and you get endorsement at it over time, and you get real functionality from your customers inputting into your product-led growth strategy that we talk about, where they want us to add advanced features. And we have a rule, we never do it only for one customer. If it can be repeated, it adds real value, differentiates us, we add those features in. And if they're advanced, we, where possible, charge customers to do that. So again, getting those inputs from our investors and helping shape that is also very important. And then access to other cybersecurity partners and also investors. And I personally would want to thank all of the Tern team for the significant number of meetings I've had in recent weeks, and a lot of them are either supported or very much introduced by the Tern team, and they've been second to none in making sure they do that. And I echo what Joe said before about ongoing mentoring, but also collaboration with a number of the team across the board. And really across the years as people have joined and add different skill sets. So that's my update, Al. I will pass back to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Darren. Again, exciting progress and the continuation of expanding the utilization of the tools that you've developed at Device Authority. And I think, specifically with the recent updates, the capability to retrofix a lot of the Azure stuff that but again, thank you, Darren. I think there was the shareholders, and now I'd like to introduce Alistair Williamson, the CEO of Wyld. In 2021, Tern made a switch from venture investor to institutional investor at Wyld, and as a result of the company's IPO, and the business has expanded. We have also increased our holdings in this exciting business through the exercise of our warrant rights earlier in the year, and we believe that this is a fundamentally good use of our capital, in that we were able to exercise these warrants at a favorable price that we believe will have significant returns to our holders. And I think, with that, it's also been a very significant year for Alistair and the company. And I'd like Alistair to provide you with an update on the progress and the exciting things that Wyld is doing in the marketplace to really bring internet capabilities to everyone. Alistair?
Thanks, Al. Evening, everybody. So I've got about 13 slides I'm going to take you through, just give you an update on where we are at the moment and some of the stuff we're doing moving forward. So excuse me one moment, slight hitch. Right, okay, so Wyld Networks at a glance. For those that don't know us, we were founded in 2016 in Cambridge in the UK, and currently we have 28 employees as of the end of Q2 this year. And as Al said, we listed on the NASDAQ First North in Stockholm in July 2021. And we also placed ourselves on the OTCQB in the US of May this year. And what do we do? So we provide our customers with the ability to collect data from their IoT sensors anywhere in the world by leveraging low Earth orbiting satellites. So we offer our customers a low power, low cost solution that gives them a really quick return on their investment. And our business model is very, very simple, very similar to a mobile operator in respect that we sell a piece of hardware, such as a mobile operator sells a mobile phone. We sell a piece of hardware called Wyld Connect, and our customers pay us a monthly fee for using our network. So just before I get into the whole presentation, I just want to touch a bit on Tern. Tern are our anchor investor. They are the first institutional investor that came into Wyld, and they came into Wyld in 2016. And they had a vision basically to combine two separate entities into Wyld Networks to create a world-leading virtual satellite operator for the Internet of Things. So Tern, yes, they're providing capital, but they are different to a lot of VCs in that, yes, they've provided us with capital to fund and grow the company. They provide us capital in all 3 rounds. And we're a cornerstone investor in our IPO on the NASDAQ First North, and also supported the Tier 1 warrants, which converted at about 98% early this year. But more than that, they're actually actively involved in shaping our strategy, both technically and commercially, helping us establish offices in the US, helping us with patent applications, helping us with trademarks. But they've also introduced the company to new partners and new customers around the world to actually support both our technology development, but also our revenue growth. So for those that don't know me or don't know the company, so what do we do? What's the problem that we're actually solving? So today, only 15% of the world's surface has access to wireless networks. The other 85% has no access to the internet. And it's this lack of global connectivity that's actually holding back the growth of IoT networks from adding about 2 to 3 trillion US dollars to global GDP over the next 10 years. So what we've done is we've developed a solution called Wyld Connect, and it's an affordable wireless solution that allows our customers to connect their IoT devices and sensors anywhere in the world to low Earth orbiting satellites, basically providing 100% connectivity. So we're basically offering our customers the ability to connect their sensors anywhere in the world. So just what are the products and what's the actual solution? So on the left-hand side, I'll just go through the 3 products. There's Wyld Connect Terminal. It's a terminal that connects to IoT sensors that are already deployed in the field. It transmits data up to the satellite transmits data down to Wyld Fusion, and Wyld Fusion provides that data to our customer. So that terminal sort of retails at a bit less than $100 per terminal. And then there's Wyld Connect, which is the module, which in essence is basically just the electronics that are embedded in Wyld Connect. So we've taken the electronics out, put it onto a small form factor chipset, and this is what we're currently selling in volume. And the customers that are buying Wyld Connect are integrating Wyld Connect into their sensor. So they're using a lot of the power, a lot of the microprocessing capability that exists within their sensor, but we're providing them with the connectivity piece that allows them to send their data to satellite and back to Wyld Fusion. So that's where our volume sales are coming from. And then there's Wyld Fusion, and that's the platform that sits on the other side, on the ground station side. It's a platform that sits in the cloud. It's a provisioning platform, it's a security platform, and most importantly, it's a payment platform, because this is where we generate our reoccurring revenues. Our customers have to pay us up to $5 per month per device, or $5 per month per Wyld Connect module to actually get access to their data. And that's all driven through Wyld Fusion. And then once the customer's paid for the data, then the data is delivered to their data analytics tools. So just going to go through some of the use cases, and this is quite a busy slide, so it's best not to read, probably easier to listen. So the use cases range in different market verticals: agriculture, utility, environment, energy, maritime, and logistics. And if I look at agriculture, we're working with companies like DFM, Bayer, Syngenta, British American Tobacco. And one of the use cases there is about how to increase the yield of crop and reduce the waste of water. So our solution has been integrated into soil moisture sensors, deployed in agriculture. That data is sent to satellite, collected from satellites, run through data analytics, and farmers and growers can look at how they can reduce or optimize the use of irrigation to increase that yield, but also reduce water. If you look at utilities, we're working with a company. One example is DWA, it's the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. And they've basically launched a satellite with our technology inside the satellite. And they're looking at how can they collect data to manage electricity supply? How can they collect data to look at wind shear on pylons, high voltage transmission lines, controlling the flow of water? So just an example in utilities. And if we move to the environment, we're working with a company called Trevia, looking at deforestation, and they're integrating our solution into their sensor, which gets deployed across thousands of trees in forests to look at when to harvest that timber and also to look at the health of forests. And then if we look at energy, we're working with Chevron as an example in monitoring corrosion in pipelines. So they're putting our sensor into, or putting our device into sensors that look at collecting data to understand corrosion in pipelines, and that there are hundreds of millions of miles of pipelines in rural areas, and they'll be using our solution to collect that data to ensure that those pipelines are not leaking oil or gas. We're working with another two companies in Brazil who want to, or are deploying already, turbines, wind turbines, and they're using our solution to collect data to understand how to position that wind turbine depending on direction of wind, how much power it's generating, and who to provide that power to. In maritime, we're working with a company, and one example is Volvo. It's Penta, the maritime engine guys. You know, they will be deploying our solution into their maritime engines to actually collect data to provide preventative maintenance indications. And in logistics, we're working with companies like Senate, Maersk, American Towers, and that's all about collecting data from IoT sensors that are on the move from farm to factory to warehouse. So there are multiple use cases, and the ones that we are focusing on are obviously agriculture, utilities, environment, energy, maritime, and logistics. So, as you know, we're deploying solutions. We're signing up launch partners. We've got pilots running in over 20 locations across 4 continents. The one missing here actually is Bangladesh for British American Tobacco. That's being deployed. We have over 25 launch partners, and we've recently established a US headquarter in Missouri and implemented sales organizations in Brazil and the Middle East. So where are we in our journey? As I said, we're going to be launching the commercial service this year, but what we're actually doing at this moment is collecting purchase orders for Wyld Connect. That's the hardware module. And we launched that hardware module in March this year, and we've generated orders of about 31 million krona to date, and that represents about 92,000 Wyld Connect modules. So that's the module that's integrated into a sensor. But obviously these orders, and we will continue to grow these orders by selling more Wyld Connect modules. But these orders at this point in time don't actually include the data service. That's the up to $5 per device per month, which is our reoccurring revenue. And we're currently out at the moment looking to get those data orders in, as well as starting to continue to sell more Wyld Connect modules. So just an idea of who we're working with. As I said, we've got about 31 million krona worth of order backlog. That's with companies like Bayer, Trevia, DWA, the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, Eutelsat, and a couple of others. But it's the number of launch partners that we're working with, which is significantly larger. And we're going through pilots with these companies. Once we've completed the pilots, we'll then go to collecting orders for Wyld Connect. That's the hardware piece, and then collecting orders once we launch the service for the up to $5 per month per device reoccurring revenue. So companies like Syngenta, British American Tobacco, interesting, we're just deploying in Bangladesh. They have about 90,000 farms and they're looking for 4 sensors per farm, so you can do the maths on that. Senate, largest terrestrial LoRa IoT operator in the US, and American Towers, the largest terrestrial IoT operator in Brazil. These guys want to use our solution to expand their offering from terrestrial to satellite to actually offer their customers 100% global coverage. And other companies like Chevron, who I mentioned before, and KWS. But interesting enough, I did a quick exercise on just the logos that are on this page. The market cap of all of those companies just listed on those pages is over $580 billion US. So what does it mean for us? So we know the market for the number of devices that's going to be deployed by 2025, and the market for satellite IoT devices, that's like Wyld Connect devices, is about 250 million by 2025, and not including the data piece of it. But that sort of all equates to a total addressable market in 2025 of about 5.9 billion. But what does that mean for Wyld? So our view of what that means is that we have the ability to get about 11.3% market share by 2025, which would represent a value of about $670 million US. So it's a large market that we're going after. So just some highlights before I come to a close. I think you'll all understand we are solving a real world problem from 2 aspects. The first aspect is basically getting over this problem of only having 15% of the world's surface having access to the internet. So we're providing a 100% global connectivity solution. That solves a real problem. But I think also you need to understand is the other problems that we're actually solving are very critical to the world moving forward in looking at how to use IoT devices in agriculture to reduce waste of water, to increase crop of yield, in energy, reducing spill of oil and spill of gas, and in supply chain, trying to ensure that goods get to their final destination in good quality, particularly perishable goods. So what we're doing is actually very good for the environment. We have a recurring revenue model, which is very important. So as I said, the Wyld Connect module is a one-off fee. It's about $40 for the Wyld Connect module. And then there's the $5 per month for the use of the network, and that's up to $5 per device per month, and that actually brings our recurring revenue in. We've got launch partners signed up, over 25 of those. We've got about 31 million krona in purchase orders, and we still have to add more purchase orders into that backlog and start to collect those data orders to really build up that backlog before we launch the network. We've secured patents and we've secured trademarks, and we're operating in a significant market. So I just want to sort of end with one slide and ask that we had a report written by a financial analyst company in Sweden called Redeye. It was published on Friday last week. It's about a 50-page document, and it talks about our projected revenues as they see it. It goes into full finance review of Wyld Networks. It talks about our competitors, our first step into the market, our leadership position, and also talks about what they believe is our fair value share price, which they indicate to be 24 SEK as a base case and up to 33 SEK on the best case position. Now, I do really urge you to have a look at that report. I do know that Tern put it out through LinkedIn, but if you don't have the ability to find that report, if you can send me an email at info@wyldnetworks.com, I'm more than happy to provide you with a copy of that analyst report. It's a very good report. And I guess that said, it's always good to end on a video. So here we go. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening to me. I made a slight mistake earlier on, which I'd just like to correct. When I talked about the report from Redeye that you can get access to through info@wyldnetworks.com, the actual best case position on their view on our share price was actually 48 krona, not 33 krona. Okay, Tim.
Well, thank you very much, Alistair, and thank you very much, Joe and Darren, for some fascinating presentations there. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much to everybody who's submitted questions. I'll now do my best to go through those, and apologies in advance that it might be dotting from place to place. I've done my best to try and group them, but I'll take them as they've come in. Joe, you gave the first presentation, so I've got a excuse me, a question for you. The questioner asks, do Talking Medicines sell medicine data multiple times to multiple agencies for competitor understanding, etc., or is it just sold to the agency responsible for marketing the specific medicine?
No, really, really good question. It's really important for us that we don't go down narrow alleyways of exclusivity so that our data is available to all parties, because the points of differentiation is how the data is used as opposed to access to the data. And agencies move between brands very often, so they will be looking for different perspectives, and ultimately they could be looking at the same data very differently. And lots of examples in the market where you become stronger by working across the sector, as in only working on a few medicines. So yes, open access in terms of you buy the data, you see it.
Okay, thank you. Now a question that really actually is applicable to Joe, Darren and Alistair. The questioner says, all of you seem to have very large addressable markets for your businesses, significant number of opportunities, but you've obviously got limited resource, and particularly human resource. Could you just give us a little bit more colour on how you're deciding on what opportunities to focus on? And is it a focus on short-term revenue, monthly recurring revenue, or indeed something else? And if I could perhaps come back to you, Joe, to kick that off, and then go to Darren and Alistair for their individual views.
Cool. No, again, I think that's absolutely right. You've got limited resource and you are constantly running experiments on use of funds to make sure they are deployed to maximum effect and return. And we very much look to the long term and work back from it. But ultimately, we want to grow with customers. We've all talked about land and expand. So if we can't make those early customers happy, they're not going to lead us into that product-led growth. So it's a balance, and it's really, really hard. But through OKRs and really tight management for us, it's about making sure we deliver now, but we really set that scene and work towards the future.
Thank you. Darren, from a DA point of view.
We spend a lot of the time, I guess, evaluating, where you can win. And I think the biggest opportunity for us is people deploying in Microsoft clouds. I always personally look for that because I know we can add value. But in terms of investments in people, and I guess the next level is we're looking to add more into customer success teams so that we can support those global logos, specifically in North America and Europe. and in development. I mean, we need to continue to innovate in our platform, and we've also want to add some machine learning capabilities. So again, adding in or extending our development team.
Okay, and Alistair.
Yeah, sure. So just to we focus on markets based on the use case and our satellite coverage. So as we're growing the network, we get more satellites up, which allows us to go after more use cases. So currently at the moment, we're focusing on the use cases that we can satisfy with our current satellite coverage, and then move from use case to use case to use case as we get more coverage. In respect to what we're doing in building the team, we're really focusing on the commercials. So we're focusing on sales teams in Latin America, and we've got a sales team down there. We've got a sales team in the US. We've now got a sales team in the Middle East. And we will next year, once we've managed to consolidate the Americas, Europe, Middle East, we'll then go into Latin America, into Asia Pac, and start to build up our business there.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions for you, Alistair. Question says, is it possible for clients to get anything out of the Wyld Connect hardware without actually paying for the data subscription? Or will every Connect hardware sale end up on a monthly subscription?
Every Wyld Connect sale will end up on a monthly subscription. It's impossible for them to collect data without paying for it.
Excellent.
It's a bit like a mobile network. You don't pay your bill, you don't collect it, you don't get your data, can't use it.
Excellent. And the final follow-up one for you, Alistair. Question asked, how happy are the pilot customers with the product?
We're very happy. The pilots are going really well. As I say, we've got over 25 of them going on at the moment. We're more than happy with the progress of our pilots.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Now I've had some sort of more general Tern questions and some specifics as well. Actually, one here, Sarah, it's probably one for you, which is a clarification from the interims that came out on Friday. Question says, the interims appear to suggest that the net assets have only fallen by 1% to 30 million. And yet the net asset value per share has decreased by 8% to 8.5p. How is that possible when no shares have been issued?
Oh, all right, thanks, Tim. Yeah, there's probably just a clarification needed there. Net assets did actually fall a little bit more than that. They fell from 32.4 million at the end of 2021 to the 30 million that they're at now as at the 30th of June. That really reflected the 2.4 million loss for the period, which included some of the fair value loss, which the interims talked about in some detail. I think potentially what the questioner is talking about is the investment valuation or our assets under management. That only fell by 1%. And that's purely because the loss of fair value on Wyld Networks, and it's interesting that Alistair touched actually on valuation, because obviously Wyld Networks is valued at point in time because it's a listed entity, so the valuation is really dictated at whatever point you close your period on. And so that loss in fair value in Wyld Networks was offset by the gains in fundamental that Al talked about at the beginning of the call, along with a fair value increase at Device Authority, again because of a foreign exchange revaluation, because it's denominated in US dollars. Then there were some additional investments that went in the period for both Wyld for a small amount on SVV, and then also for Talking Medicines as well, that kind of Jo referenced in her talk. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Certainly cleared it up for me. Thank you, Sarah. Bruce, I think I'll fire this one at you to start with, because this is a question that's come up many times before on these type of events. I'm asked here, why were there no metrics on the invested companies included with the interims? The Tern board must know how frustrating this is for Tern shareholders. How can we judge the performance if we don't know the financial information? Can you give us a little bit more on why we don't?
I think the key point really is about not providing any of our competitors or DA or Wyld or Talking Medicines competitors with that type of information. Having run a small private company myself, you publish what you need to publish. So we're not going to provide competitive information out in the field. It just won't happen. None of our comparative companies provide that information, so we will never do that. So, and it can be frustrating. I'm sorry for the shareholders that feel that way, and we try and do that by providing key performance indicators so people can see that there's growth in all of the companies that we invest in.
Okay, thank you. And a question that's come up from a number of people, obviously the current share price is disappointing. This one for you, Bruce. Do you believe that the current board is fit for purpose, frankly, and particularly the executive team? And do you have faith in your executive colleagues and yourself, indeed, to deliver a promising future for Tern and its shareholders?
Well, having been the founder of the business and been instrumental in putting the board together, I can tell you the board are very supportive of the executive team, and in particular of Al. And I would personally commend Al too. I've known Al for 12, 13 years. I've worked with him before Tern. We've invested together. He's an exceptional businessman, and we're very fortunate to have someone of his caliber leading the team. So I can say that we absolutely take seriously what our shareholders say, and we discuss it intensely at board meetings. But I, as both a shareholder and founder of the business, believe we have an excellent team in place.
Thank you. Thank you. A question here that's not related to the three presenting companies, but it's regarding the Shore Valley Ventures funding. The question is a bit of a leading question here. The question says, why are we still going on with Shore Valley Ventures when our original stake has already lost money? And how are we going to actually take this forward, and why are we doing it? Anybody like to give some more colour on the strategic rationale behind that?
I'm happy to answer that, and certainly I'm sure Al and Sarah can add to that as well. When you get to a certain point of investment, we bring in third-party investors, other VCs, other private equity companies, and whilst they're friendly, they're also competitive. And to have access to a friendly co-investor in someone like SVV is highly beneficial for us, and it allows us to look at other investment opportunities. I think, bear in mind, this is a 5 to 10 year play, and as they invest in companies that we will also take a look at, there will be an exit, and that exit will provide an income stream for Tern, and that's goodness. So I think it's a really good, solid strategy to partner with SVV for those reasons.
Okay, thank you.
And to add to that, I think there's proof points for the shareholders to look at with the performance of SVV1, which is part and parcel of a lot of the decisions that the board took to make this investment into SVV2. We're getting curated deals, we're getting non-competitive. I mean, because every one of our companies has attracted considerable interest from other investors, and these are competitive situations for us to protect our position for our shareholders in terms of being able to leverage the growth that guys like Darren and Alistair and Joe are creating within their business. So having a source that provides us with friendly access to opportunities that we believe can grow and satisfy the growth characteristics of our business objectives is a real benefit for us and we believe for our shareholders.
Thank you, Al. I apologise in advance. I was going to be dotting around, and I'm reading the questions as they're being typed in. Next one's for you, Darren. I'm asked, Darren, your team is very small in comparison to likes of some competitors like Ping Identity or Key Factor. Do you see that as an impediment to grab market share?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, clearly, additional investment will help us invest in a number of areas, but I would say one might be smaller, but we're a bit more nimble. We can move a lot faster, so it does have its benefits. But we do need some more people, but it's not excessive. I mean, at the end of the day, we're building a partnership in direct go-to-market. You know, dealing with people like Microsoft doesn't mean you're working directly, you're working with systems integrators, even with their marketplace, you know, their online offerings as well. So, you know, we do need to invest in our headcount, but it's not drastic. Does it really keep marginalised me against competitors? The market is so big, we just need to execute well. And, you know, and I showed you that analyst report. It's what we do with information like that to demonstrate that we're, you know, one of the leaders, and they need to work with people like us. I mean, I would add people like Ping Identity. Actually, I mean, I've spoken to them. They have their own investment fund. Clearly, they're on a trail to be acquired by another significant PE company. But they're interested in our space because what we do is solve problems that they can't do today, despite what their sort of grander website position might say. So, you know, I'm always mindful of the competition, or collaboration, as I like to call it, because in many ways they're your competitors, but they're also, you have to collaborate because we're part of an ecosystem, especially in larger customers. But we do need more investment, specifically to, you know, really sales and marketing development and customer success teams, but you know, that isn't drastic.
Okay, thank you. Alistair, quick one for you. I'm asked, do you think there are any opportunities arising from the Eutelsat acquisition of OneWeb?
Yes.
Okay.
OneWeb are extremely strong in low Earth orbiting satellites. As you know, they have put up quite a few low Earth orbiting satellites, mainly focusing at broadband. So they're going after Elon Musk's business. But one of the key things about what that differentiates OneWeb and SpaceX is that OneWeb are going after business customers, which is really good because we're in the business space. We're not providing solutions to the retail space or consumers.
Okay, thank you. And just a follow-up question, Alistair. Clarification, you said that monthly fees of up to £5 a month per device. Is that an absolute maximum? And if so, is there a real minimum? Are there some devices where you only get a few cents, for example?
So it's up to $5, to be clear, per month per device. So when we talked about the 92,000 units we've already shipped, do the maths. But the up to $5 is predicated on the number of messages that we would allow them to send, which is based on the capacity of satellites. So once again, I point everyone to this great report from Redeye. If you don't have it, contact me, info@wyldnetworks.com. I'll send it to you. They basically did a report and came out with an average of $2.8 per month per device.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. We're getting towards the end of the time and indeed the questions, but one here for the Tern team. Do you see any upsides or downsides in the current weakness of sterling and strength of the dollar? Are we seeing more interest in investing from US entities, and does it create any particular problems for Tern, either side of that particular conundrum?
Sarah, do you want to take the FX and I'll talk about the investing side?
Well, I think from an FX side, you know, it's definitely it's a bit of an unprecedented time at the moment, is it, with where we are with sterling and dollar. So it's I would say there's not been enough time for everything to feed through in terms of the opportunities that you would potentially see coming from such a swing in forex. I wouldn't be surprised if over the coming months that starts to have a real impact actually in interest levels that we see feeding through. But so the earlier stages that we're looking at, it's not come through yet. That's not to say it won't do, and I would certainly expect something to swing along that way as we proceed through the year, if we continue in the way the forecasts are, with sterling staying pretty much where it is for the rest of the year, if not getting a little bit worse.
Okay.
And from an investing side of this dollar strengthening, venture capital organizations in the United States, as well as in Europe and the UK, have all taken a step back and are looking at the investing climate, and we're seeing valuations coming down. What I am seeing here in the relationship to our companies is the interest levels that they have generated, particularly with the report from that Alistair talked about and the ABI research, et cetera, that U.S. investors are becoming curious and in what we're doing, and we're seeing that also at Talking Medicines. They're becoming very curious as to the opportunities, because there seems like a double opportunity to have step up in value from investing, which is good for the companies, but difficult for us, because we have to really, as Bruce said earlier, continually create value for our companies, and to do so requires our ability to compete with these dollar-based organizations that look like they may be on the horizon coming to the UK. So it's an interesting period in time, and like Sarah indicated, the forecasts are right now not showing a change in that dollar to pound ratio of any significance for at least the next 4 to 6 months. So it's going to become a very competitive period for us.
Understood. Well, I'm very conscious that a couple of our presenters had a hard deadline at 6:15. We've now gone a minute over that. So I'd like to finish. I have had a couple of people actually type in, say thank you very much to the three presenters. Thank you very much to the Tern team. One says, the Tern team, you may catch a lot of flack from many shareholders, but clearly things are moving in the right direction. And why is the share price only where it is? Well, hopefully it won't be there for much longer, but I would like to thank everybody who's attended tonight, both on the presentation side, but most particularly those shareholders and potential investors who've taken the time to join us this evening. Any other questions, as I said at the beginning, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, Tim Metcalf. Contact details are on all of the Tern announcements, and we look forward to doing another one of these before too long. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you all.